Good afternoon. Before we get started, I wish to introduce the people who are here sitting with me. To my left is our permanent secretary in the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training, Wendy Odell. To my right is our Chief Education Officer, Dr. Ramona Archer Bradshaw. Next to Dr. Bradshaw is Ms. Julia Beckles, who is now 3 days in as our new Deputy Chief Education Officer with responsibility for schools. She has come in the hot seat at just the right time. To the left of our permanent secretary is Dr. Paul Murphy. Dr. Murphy is the director of our Change Management Unit, which is the unit within the ministry that will be spearheading much of the transformational change that we will be experiencing during our education transformation effort. To his left is Mr. Francisco Miller. Mr. Francisco Miller is the director of the Education Technical Management Unit, which we call ETMU, which is the unit that has responsibility for the readiness of schools. And at the far right, I should have spoken of him first, is Mr. Price. Mr. Price is, up until Monday, he was our acting Deputy Chief Education Officer until Ms. Beckles came in to support the rest of the ministry's effort, but he's also the senior education officer who works with exams currently. So with all the introductions made, I'd simply like to do some opening remarks, and then we will invite the members of the press to ask questions. Well, I can say that September is here again. And the new academic school year 2024-2025, it begins next week for our school children in the public schools. And for those in public schools who got started either earlier this week or late last week, I just want to wish all of you a successful year. Now, some exciting transitions and new initiatives are ahead in our public system on the road to transformation during this upcoming year, and I'll share some of them with you today. But for all of our efforts to succeed, it will take all of us, all partners in education, having the mind to work collaboratively with the best interest of our children at the center of all that we do. And so even as parents and children, you all gear up with your school clothes and your book bags and your water bottles and all of the other supplies that you need to get started. We here at the ministry, we too are gearing up as well. We enter this very first term of the academic year fully seized with the fact that we need for there to be effective initiatives to address the challenges that we face in literacy and numeracy at all levels. We enter this year fully seized of the fact that we need to provide professional development support to our teachers, to our school leaders, to our education officers, because what we need to do is to equip them to operate effectively and more at the cutting edge in this already changed educational environment. We start this year understanding that there is a need for us to expand resources for students with special needs, including the reopening of Alma Paris in a preparatory phase. There's a need also for different and proven approaches to teaching and learning, including using play, the play-based approach at the nursery level, and project-based learning in the upper schools. Training for that, in fact, is ongoing and has been for the last 3 days under the direction of Paul Murphy. But as we talk about each of these, there are some other things that I will touch on that I know are of concern to the public at this time. But let's start with literacy and numeracy. Support for the professional development of our school teachers and learners is paramount. And every child can learn. Every child can learn with the right teacher and the right approach that suits their needs. And those who teach, they need the training and the support to help them continuously improve. Teachers cannot do their job alone. And so it's the entire in-school support system that must be strengthened in our effort towards professional development. Over the last 18 months, this ministry has provided training opportunities for over 3,000 partners in the education sector. Among them, our education officers, our educational leaders, our principals and heads of departments, our teachers, even our board of management. All of them too went through the training as board members. Our social workers, our guidance counselors, our school counselors, our safety officers, and our school assistants who support the teachers in the classroom, they all went through training, including during this summer holiday that we are now bringing to an end. Some of that training not only looked at what will happen in the classroom, but some included things like self-care for educators, the impact of trauma and trauma-informed care, teaching students with special needs, system leadership and team building for students. Even our student councils went through leadership training. These are the students' organizations within the schools that have determined that they want to have a voice in how we do education going forward, and those student councils are growing. Basic child care was part of the training that we gave to school assistants who will also be in the classroom. And I name only a few, but just to reinforce the fact that the intense focus of our ministry on professional development, it is a major part of our commitment to ensuring that teachers and principals and educators of all types, that they're equipped to deliver quality in the process of education transformation. Significant to that is recognizing that Urdeston Teachers Training College cannot do the job alone. And so our partnership with Columbia University, one of the top universities in the world, the certificate program in teacher efficacy and leadership, in fact, will start on September 24th of this year, just over a week from now. And we were seeking to have 100 persons subscribe to each of the 2 courses that would be 1-year-long programs. And I am told that we are oversubscribed in one and just about at subscription level in the other. And so we will continue to invest in the continuous professional development of our teachers, our school leaders, and all those who are part of the community. Literacy is a very real concern. It is a legitimate and growing concern. And we here at the ministry are concerned about the proportion of primary school age students who are lacking foundational reading and writing skills. Analysis of our national data from the Criterion Reference Test from as far back as 2012 reveals that foundational skills in English were weak for students specifically in the Infants B and Class 2 levels. That's what came out of that particular piece of data. Furthermore, data derived from the Barbados Secondary School's entrance examination, it reveals that way too many students are scoring below 40% in English. A structured support to teaching literacy is our way forward. There is a growing body of evidence to suggest that most learners, including those with dyslexia and other reading challenges, are better able to read with structured teaching of basic language skills and concepts. Of course, there are several different ways to teach reading and the various other skills that constitute literacy. And for the most part, Barbados has used what the pedagogues, the educators have told me is called the eclectic approach, which is different from the structured approach. That structured approach now allows us to do more systematic interventions using tools that enable us to track progress not only of the student, but of the teacher as well. And so in this coming school year, 2 new evidence-based programs will be piloted at both the primary and secondary levels to seek to improve literacy competencies. And I speak of literacy as a competency because it is made up of many different skills. 250 educators across the 2 programs will be trained during this year. One of the programs, the Linda Mood Bell program, will be piloted in 6 primary schools, 3 secondary schools, 3 special education schools, and 50 educators in that particular intervention will be trained. The second program that we will be piloting to help improve literacy is our Snappy Sounds. 40 primary schools, approximately 200 educators. And when we say educators, we mean principals, senior teachers, language arts coordinators, early childhood coordinators. They will be involved in that training. These programs will focus on teaching teachers how to teach reading in the classroom so that they can be more effective in their instructions. There are a number of devices and resources that will be provided to the teachers to assist them. We also, with the support of our change management unit, will be seeking to put proper monitoring and evaluation mechanisms in place so that we can truly see what we are getting for our investment in these programs. How is it benefiting students and teachers? As I said, they will be piloted this year, and based on the evidence gathered, we will determine how we go forward. The target groups are Infants A, Infants B, our special units, and the learning support classes at primary and secondary schools. We recognize that teachers have sometimes, and school leaders have sometimes felt as if they were alone in some of their journeys. And so the building of professional learning communities with selected team leaders will be a part of providing that additional support to our teachers and our school leaders and our educators. You will recall that also in our effort to address the literacy challenge we are facing, one that many in the rest of the world are also facing, is the establishment of our National Task Force for Literacy, which was launched in January of this year. Further questions that you may have with regards to what we are doing with literacy and numeracy in our schools, please feel free to pose those to our Chief Education Officer, because I know that there's some other things that those who are watching would like to know about, including school readiness. I have to say to you that this year there were 26 schools that were part of what we call the summer program. But a significant shift that you will see going into this new school year is that we are shifting from this approach that we have used for years when we try to stuff all of the repairs for schools into a summertime. We have now developed a year-round program where we will do some of the repairs during the summer, but there will now be a program for those repairs to be done on weekends as well as after school hours. What we have to ensure, and I have said this to the ETMU unit, the director and others, we have to ensure that one, all of those ongoing works after school and on weekends will not pose any impediment to teaching and learning, that they do not pose any health and safety challenges at the school, and that the communities in which the work will be done are properly notified in case there may be any inconvenience during that time. So just as we do the year-round program, it has to be done responsibly with the safeguards in place and the interests of the people who will be impacted in mind. I am told by Mr. Francisco Miller and his unit that the majority of the schools are either completed or close to completion. What they sought to do was to set a scope of work that could be done during the period of time that we had for their completion, and then the rest of the work would be done as part of the ongoing year-round program. I have been told, based on the report which I received last night, is that most of the outstanding work for those schools where we believe the scope will still be done by this year. Most of them are like supply issues where we are waiting for supplies to come. There are matters regarding fit-ins and those things that can be done either on weekends or on after school and would not significantly impact the schools. The cleaning has to be done, but you know, with much of the rain we had, we thought we would want to do the cleaning closer to when school would reopen so that we wouldn't have to pay twice to do the major cleaning again. And so at a number of schools, the cleaning is still ongoing now, but we anticipate that in most cases, as the report has said to me, that they will be done by weekend. If for whatever reason, things outside of our control should happen, our Chief Education Officer will be putting in place alternative arrangements. We do not anticipate that that will be needed, but any good planner knows that there's always contingency. And that is our contingency plan. So the general word is the Education Technical Management Unit is telling me that schools will be open on time on Monday, and in the event that other work needs to continue, they will be subsumed as part of the year-round program. And should for any reason we need to change, the Chief Education Officer will determine what alternative arrangements will be made. Another one of those things that I know you're seeking to hear about is that of our scholarships and exhibitions. And I want to share with you that this year we had 15 scholarships and 20 exhibitions. And it is possible that that number may increase because there are some students who, as is their right and as they're entitled to do, have asked CXC for a review of their results. And based on the outcome of those reviews, you may very well find ourselves with more scholarships and exhibitions. And that is a normal thing. That's part of the normal process. So just saying, we will, in greater detail, do a presentation this year. We wanted to do a virtual as well, where for those who are here, they can certainly be there in person, but a virtual presentation is also on the cards. And as we meet with Mr. Price and his team, in fact, it is Dr. Rudder, who is the local registrar. He is ill today and could not make it to this this press briefing, but has been working on ensuring that we are able to make that presentation in a timely manner. Another question that I know is burning for you is our CXC results. And again, we will have a more fulsome discussion with regards to our CXC results, but I want to say that both at the CSEC level as well as at the CAPE level, we have seen some improvements, and where there have been decrease in the pass rate, it has been in the vicinity, Chief, of about 1% or 0 point something percent. So we are pretty much seeing our results hold their own in certain specific subjects. Again, I'm not going to go into the specifics of all of them. I do have some of the statistics here, but we will have a more fulsome presentation of those results. And I want to share with you, I know a number of people were asking, so why we didn't get the national results for how people have performed at CSEC and CAPE. Just letting you know that we had a situation here in Barbados where we had over 119 or thereabouts students who had ungraded papers. And what we did not want to do was to come to you with one national result and then have to come back to you a second time and say, oops, sorry, we need to change it. I have been informed by Mr. Price and the division, he has been informed by Dr. Rudder, that that particular challenge has been resolved, Mr. Price, and as a result, we are now able to give you more fulsome results. And there was a specific reason why that happened, and may I say that it was not something that the ministry did, it was not something that CXC did. There was an error with regards to how the registration was done for certain students, and there was a coding difference that then caused a bit of a challenge. What we will continue to do is have conversations with our partners, both in the schools as well as CXC, to see how we can mitigate that occurrence happening again. But as I said, the results will be given to you in a more fulsome way in another forum. We know that this is just a short time that we have here, but the reason was that we didn't want to have to come back to you twice because there was such a significant number of ungraded papers, and we needed to address that. There were also some other minor challenges, and I'm told, Mr. Price, that all have now been resolved, and we can now come to you with a clean report. Special education needs has increased significantly. We are seeing an increased number of persons presenting with autism and other challenges. Let me be straight. The ministry does not have at this time the resources to address every single challenge and every single child. But we are working, the chief and her team are working on a plan for us to be able to properly quantify the need and then be able to build the partnerships that will allow us to respond in a more fulsome way to the entire need. Diagnostic testing will be an important part of what we need to do to make sure that we are targeting the interventions according to the specific needs of the students. One of the initiatives, and of course you can speak with the chief with regards to many of the other initiatives that we have ongoing. One will be the reopening of Alma Paris. We have determined, and that school will be for some students who need some additional support on their learning journey, and where it is deemed that it is best to remove them from the other schools at this time and put them in an environment that is best suited to addressing their specific needs. Again, what that structure will look like, the ways in which it will cater, there are some innovative plans on the table, and cabinet is to sign off on the final plan for that, but we intend to reopen in January in full. But what it means is that between now and January, we will be in preparatory phase. This is the time when all of those students who will benefit from that customized learning environment to suit their needs, we are going to do the diagnostic testing. I have said to the team, 100% of those students who go into that school must have the diagnostic testing completed. We must go into January with individual educational plans for each child. It cannot be a one-size-fits-all, and we have to customize plans to suit each child. Those individual education plans, those IEPs, must be completed before every child, any child, enters the new Alma Paris Academy. Additionally, I've asked that parental engagement, particularly of those parents who will have children benefiting from that environment, that we do so in a new and innovative way that will ensure a high engagement rate, and that it is important for us to ensure that the premises are ready. And so during this period, while we will seek to officially open Alma Paris in January of 2025, we will use this period between September and December to do the preparatory work so that when we open well. There will, of course, be some pilot programs with some of the students during that time so that we can test certain methodologies and certain approaches and get their feedback as well as to how it works. And so whether it is professional development, the continuous support that we will give to our educators, our school leaders, our teachers, and those who are part of the in-school support system for our students, whether it is the work we're doing with literacy and numeracy, whether it is the work that we will continue to do with regards to school readiness as part of a year-round program, whether it is the continued work that we will do to do better as it comes to getting our results out early so that people can plan. And I think for me to sit here and say that the ministry is doing everything perfectly would be untrue. But what I can tell you is that this team of people, we are seeking to make progress, and where there have been challenges, we have sat down as a team to try to see how we will address them. Have we addressed all? Not yet, but we are taking a systematic approach to being able to put the systems in place that will allow people to succeed in this emerging environment. But as I close, I want to alert all parents and students, particularly first formers, to the digital learning resources that will be coming to you during this school year. We have just concluded our negotiations with a service provider who will allow first form students to operate in hybrid when it comes to the materials they need from school, where you can get your hardcover normal books or you can access certain books online. Again, we will be rolling this out during this school year, and I say to please listen out, because in the early part of this term, it's September to December term, we will be spending time sensitizing the students, sensitizing the parents, getting the teachers on board so you understand what resources you can get digitally versus those that we have. We will be looking at what the uptake is, what are some of the challenges, so that when we finally seek to roll out to the rest of the schools, that we will be able to do so more seamlessly. And so from this very first year, this school year, digital learning resources, where some digital books and other resources will be made available for the students. And I want, with that mouthful, to truly thank all who have played a part in getting us ready for schools. And I really want to say that as our work of transformation continues, with now almost a fully stocked, I shouldn't say stocked, but a fully resourced change management unit under directorship of Paul Murphy, we look forward to accelerated work. Thank you so much, and have a productive 2024-2025 academic school year. For those who have questions, we invite them.
Good afternoon to everyone. Wendy Burt, Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation. Minister, you spoke to the special needs changes and improvements. I applaud you on that. I have many friends whose children have suffered over the years, so I applaud you on that. The question is now, apart from the resources, are we going to be seeing any additional schools, whether it be a full school or whether it be an addition to a unit? I know there were some areas of the island that, had issues with the movement of the children because there weren't any in their particular locale, for example, the rural districts. So I just want to know if you're going to be looking to put on any additional special units to assist parents in those areas.
Yes, it's interesting because it was just yesterday that the chief and we were talking about additional spaces that we will have available. And I will ask the chief to speak more specifically about the additional spaces. As I said, we still are not at the level of demand, but we are adding capacity with the intention of scaling up once we have a full hold on what exactly is the scale we're working with, and that we can then use the data that we collect to plan properly. Chief?
Thank you, Minister. Thank you for that question. I'm Wendy. The Ministry of Education indeed needs to scale up when it comes to providing spaces for our students who have special education needs. We must be mindful that we can only have so much capacity at this point in time. What I will tell you is that between 2022 and this year, we have increased the number of inclusionary spaces in this country to accommodate those children with special education needs. We have increased space at Bailey's Primary School. We have increased space at the Eagle Hall Primary School. We have introduced an inclusionary unit at the Milton Lynch Primary School, and we have expanded at St. Christopher Primary School. What we are doing in addition to this is ensuring that our teachers in mainstream schools receive the opportunity to be adequately equipped to cater to students with special education needs. As I said, capacity is limited, space is limited, and we recognize that every time we look around, we have more and more children who are presenting with different kinds of special needs. It is therefore best for us at this time not only to look to increase capacity where we can, but to ensure that the teachers who are in the mainstream schools are well equipped to handle those children with the special education needs.
And a quick follow-up before I hand over to my colleagues on the issue of Alma Paris reopening. What is the complement that you're looking to start with there, and the competencies of the teachers? Are we going to see some of them who were there, who were sent other places, re-engaged at Alma Paris, or have we put on a special training program for the teachers there?
Okay. Well, thank you. I'm going to ask the chief to speak to that. When we believe that the initial thinking was that we would start with 30 students, but we recognize that we may need to scale up and work with a minimum of 80 students. We were ready for the 30. We now, as part of this preparatory few months, which I mentioned, we will be seeking better ways of catering to more. Just bearing in mind that there's limited space on that compound. And therefore, part of our constraint would not be a lack of capacity of the ministry necessarily, but it may be that we have to see how best we can create additional space that is customized and workable for students with those particular needs. And so as part of this preparatory phase, as we train teachers and we get the IEPs and we do the diagnostic testing, etc., part of it would be seeing how do we solve for an increased capacity that will take us at least a minimum of 80.
Good afternoon, everyone. Ryan Jilts, Barbados today. I wanted to ask, I guess, Minister, you would direct me who would be the best person to answer this. In the past, we've had concerns being expressed by the unions and also the Association of Principals with regards to the placements and the assignment of teachers. Where are we with that? Because we've been hearing in some sections that some people are still unaware of where they're going and how they're being assigned.
I am going to have the chief and the permanent secretary speak to that, because those are matters handled at their level and not at the ministerial level. But what I will say is that I believe that in any professional system, including a public service, wherever it is in the world, that persons who are being assigned and transferred and made to transition in various ways, that is an activity that needs to happen in a timely manner and with the proper notification for people to make the adjustments they need to make. Some people are easier in dealing with change than others. Some have other demands that will require them to make other adjustments that others do not. But I think in fairness to all, whether it is with our teachers or it is our public service generally, we really have to come up with a better way of doing assignments and appointments and transfers in a manner that will be reasonable for those who are impacted. Now, as you know, it is the overall Ministry of the Public Service that does all the hiring and appointments, etc., of people in the public service. The Prime Minister had committed, and she is following through on her commitment. Significant progress is being made towards setting up a teaching commission that would then allow the matters related to the education sector, the recruitment and the discipline and the promotions and all that goes with that, to be handled by its own commission rather than being a part of the general picture, which slows down the process not for any deliberate reason, but because the systems and the volume is such that it makes it difficult to do things the way it ought to. And so I look forward to the continued work that our Prime Minister has already started with regards to establishing the teaching commission that will hopefully seek to alleviate some of the challenges that we are now having. But I think overall, we need to do better. I am going to ask first the permanent secretary to speak to the matter, and then what she does not cover, the chief education officer.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I would leave the specifics to the Chief Education Officer, but I just wanted to add to what our minister would have said just now, to say that when we speak of recruitment in the public service, and more specifically here at the Ministry of Education, it's a process that entails collaboration between our ministry and the Ministry of the Public Service. And we continue to engage that ministry to ensure that we're able to appoint all of our staff, all of our teachers and our principals in a very seamless manner. We do acknowledge that we have had a lot of missteps along the way, but we continue to work together to have a framework. We've already started at looking at a framework, and we have agreed to a framework, but given that it is still new, we continue to look at that framework. We will continue to see how we need to improve the framework to ensure that both ministries are able to work together to ensure that this process is done in a most efficient manner. So even at this stage, before the Chief Education Officer speaks, I would want to apologize to our principals who would have received late notice, because that is not our intention. As the minister said, our intention is to ensure that persons know well in advance where they will be assigned for the new school year. We want persons, yes, to be able to prepare themselves emotionally and mentally if they're going into new environments. We want it for ourselves, and we want it for our principals as well. And so we take this matter very seriously. Of course, there were some internal issues that I would not wish to speak to at this point in time, but there were internal issues that would have led to the missteps. And the ministry will hold persons accountable for inaction. Okay, we will hold persons accountable for the inactions that would have led to this disaster. And I call it a disaster because I know that persons are very uncomfortable. But I still want to encourage principals. You have the training, you have the know-how, you have the experience. I want you to still embrace the opportunity. Change is something that sometimes is difficult, but it's something that must be embraced because there are new opportunities that can arise from the change. So I still implore all principals, all teachers, to be open to the experiences, the good experiences that will come this new school year. There are teams that have already been on the ground, and I'm speaking now whether it's the senior teacher, the ITCs, their teachers that would have been already meeting and they would have been planning for the new school year. So our principals will not be going into new schools having to start from scratch. There are already teams in place to assist them. And so I encourage you to meet with your team and to continue to strategize to ensure that your schools are able to perform optimally, to ensure that our students are able to learn, because that's the reason why they are at school, and as they learn that they will enjoy the experiences, and that our teachers, they receive all of the professional training that the ministry has to offer, and that they're also able to function effectively in their jobs. Okay, so that is my message to the principals, to the teachers, and to the students. At this time, I will turn over to the Chief Education Officer so that she can have her say on the matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Permanent Secretary. I wish to say that I concur with the comments of the Minister of Education and the Permanent Secretary. This ministry values its principles. Over the past few years, we have developed a relationship where we communicate openly and there is a level of transparency. It is highly unfortunate that what occurred recently in terms of the assignments occurred. We had a meeting with them this morning to explain to them the challenges that we experience. And the minister said it very clearly earlier this afternoon. She said, even though we strive for perfection, we are not perfect. And this was said because certainly there are things that are out of our control and there are things that are within our control. And sometimes the things that are outside of our control, they give us a curveball, but the things that are within our control, those are the things that we can attempt to deal with. And as PS said, there were a few internal challenges that contributed to the already existing delay. And as she said, we will address those matters internally. We will speak about accountability, but this Ministry of Education will consistently work to make sure that an occurrence like this does not happen when it comes to things within their control. And I want to give that assurance. Having said that, we look forward to working with our principals this academic year. We have a number of initiatives to roll out. Given our meeting today, we put certain things behind us and we said, look, we have these things to do. And they showed their willingness to be ready, to be set, and to go. And I appreciate our principals at the primary level and at the secondary level, the nursery level, the special schools. I appreciate them for that. Let us work together to ensure that our children receive the best education that they could receive, to give them the best chances, not only in Barbados, but in the region and the world. We're going to have humps and grumps and bumps along the way. It's not going to be smooth sailing. But when we meet the bumps and the humps and the grumps, let us work it out quickly and just press ahead to the goal. And that's my word of encouragement to all of our principals today. In fact, to all of our partners in education, let's do this for our children.
That said, Chief Education Officer, are you in a position to inform the public as to the shifts that will be made ahead of Monday's start of the official school term, or will that be coming out later?
And I will ask you for clarity. What shifts are you talking about? Because as we speak, the principals are aware of where they will be going. They have already been assigned. So I'm trying to understand the question.
We want to know new assignments.
Oh, you want to know the new assignments, but you didn't ask that. Okay. We can give you that information a little later. I wouldn't utilize this press conference because there are certain principles at the secondary level that were shifted and principles at the primary level, and there are quite a number of them. All right, so we will give you that information. All right.
We already got names.
You're pressing, and you're pressing so much.
As chief is searching for the information, as she said, she'd be happy to share it with you a little bit later. You understand that our public servants work for the government of Barbados, and even ministers, even permanent secretaries, deputy permanent secretaries can be moved at any point in time, and there is no entitlement of anyone to stay any one place. And so while the deployment must be made in a far better, more professional fashion, understand that the movement or the transfer of people, it's not a big deal. It is part of the process of running a national system of education where we will seek to assign persons where it is suited. So I hope that when the chief finally gets the information and is able to share, that you would recognize that a shift does not mean anything other than that you are part of a national pool of resources in a public service where we are all transitioned to new situations.
My question now goes to the minister. Must compliment the ministry with regards to the plan for a year-long work program to deal with the schools. We've been to a number of visits where there was some concern raised about the work to be done. Has there firstly been consultation with the other stakeholders? I know that you always push for consultation, but what has their take been on the situation? Have they been accepting of the entire program itself?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
Asking this, has there been consultation firstly on the work program, the planned year-long work program for the schools, firstly?
Okay, usually an assessment is done of the school to see what are some of the immediate needs that they have and what are some of the medium terms. Those assessments are done, we do an audit and we do an assessment and we determine what is to happen with the schools. Usually, and I will ask the director of ETMU to tell you about the process, but we would know, okay, roof here, toilets here, drainage here, and we know what they are, and then we schedule according to what is most urgent at the particular time. Now, the consultations, really, if they're not happening, ought to be happening. And I would want to encourage the ETMU that if they're not currently occurring, that they need to be doing so more frequently and more consistently. What we have now is Ms. I don't see her here, our stakeholder manager, Wanda McLean, who will now have, she's currently out at schools. She's on the road as we speak now. Her responsibility is to ensure that our relationship with stakeholders and those consultations that need to be ongoing, to ensure that those consultations happen and happen in a way that is transparent to all parties. And so you will see Ms. McLean working more directly with all stakeholders and seeking not only on matters of infrastructure and repairs, but on other matters that affect their relationship with the ministry. And again, that is something that we put in place I believe it was just earlier this year, PS, to ensure that we are better able to manage stakeholder relationships to do exactly what you were asking. I am now going to ask Mr. Francisco Miller, who is director of our ETMU, to speak to what consultations have happened with regards to the year-round program.
Thank you very much, Minister. In terms of the year-round program, we consulted in terms of with the principals as well as the teachers. We met with the teachers and the principals in terms of doing the work, in terms of when we prepare the scope of works and whether we can do the scope of works within the allocated time period vis-a-vis the summer program. Now, in this situation where we are unable to complete all works, that discussion was held, and in such we would have scheduled the work to continue after. We had, as the minister would have said, we had some delivery issues in terms of windows and stuff like that, which will not stop the work, stop school. So in such, we can do that on weekends, and after school has ended, we will take into consideration not to disrupt the community in terms of work being done, the noise level and such like that. So we will be using our Ms. McLean to engage the public, the community, to alert them, because we would have consulted the principals and the teachers, but we did not consult the community. So that is something that we will have Ms. McLean do to sensitize the community on what we are planning to do.
Good afternoon, everyone. Trey Grace from The Nation. Would you be able to provide a list of those 26 schools that were under the summer repairs program? Yes. You want to give it after? All right. Thank you. And to the chief, were you able to get that number? I would.
To get what?
Number after the press conference. It's fine.
All right.
It's fine.
I saw you looking back, so I was checking to see if you were ready to give it out, but no problem.
Oh, sorry. I wasn't working on that immediately, but I will give you right after the press conference.
Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions? Okay, I just want to say thank you very much for participating. As I close, I'm going to ask those parents who will be going out to buy snacks for your students and to remember our National School Nutrition Program, our policy. I am told by our communication specialists that there will be some information sent out with regards to some snacks that are healthy snacks that you can purchase at not significantly more than what you are purchasing now. And I just want to share with you, and we probably can share with the permission of the Ministry of Health and Wellness and the Heart and Stroke Foundation, that they have sent out a list which I shared with our communications people, and I know that it would be of benefit to the country, that we can package that list in a way, because they have looked at a number of different snacks. They have said what is the sugar content, what's the salt content, what's the saturated fat content, what is the caloric content, etc. And then at the end, they have said, does this fit within our nutrition policy? And I think that by arming our parents and our students with that meaningful information, it will be very helpful as we seek to make sure that healthy minds make for better performance at school. And it's the way we eat that feeds our minds. So on that note, I want to thank everyone who has participated today, and to say to our students, to our teachers, to our school leaders, to our parents, to the country, we've got work to do in education transformation. Let's choose to do it together. Thank you.